Hi everyone, this is Marianne and welcome to my channel. In one of my previous videos, which is about my return to journaling, I showed you this zippy bag that I use to store all of my sample ink vials. I will link that video in the description box. And apparently, and this same zippy bag also contains my glass pen, which really shouldn't be here because this is so fragile. It cannot be just tossed around inside a very chaotic bag. So I will keep that in a much safer place. And I also keep in here the cotton swab that I use for swatching inks. And everything else in here is still pretty much the same. I just keep tossing all of my new sample ink vials into this zippy bag. But every time I need to refill a pen or something, so I need a specific vial, it's really annoying to have to go through all of the vials one by one in here. So I thought I might as well organize these and categorize them in some way so that when I need a specific vial, I don't need to go through the contents vial by vial. Instead, I can go through them Ziploc bag by Ziploc bag. So I just took out some Ziploc bags inside yet another zippy bag that contains all of my Ziploc bags and chose some of the bags that I think would be more or less the right size for organizing my ink vials. By the way, these blue zippy bags are what I use to organize all of the different bits and bobs inside my craft box, and I have a video about how I organized that craft box, and I will leave a link in the description box just in case you're interested. And then I just dumped all of the vials onto the top of my desk. I completely emptied out the blue zippy bag. This ink stain right here at the bottom is Robert Oster Clearwater Rain. I did not close the vial properly before tossing it into here and it leaked out. I managed to wipe off the ink from everything, but the stain remained. But still, aside from the stain, there is nothing wrong with this zippy bag, so I'll continue to use it. And then I just grouped the vials according to brand. The brands that I have multiple vials of are Diamine, always my favorite, Noodlers, Ferris Wheel Press, and by the way, all of my Ferris Wheel Press sample ink vials were purchased just beginning in January when I returned to journaling, and now I already have way too much of them. Another brand that I have multiple vials of, which I nevertheless only started buying in January, is Wearingill. Also, I have multiple vials of J. Herbin, also Robert Oster, Dominant Industry, which I discovered only in January. I also have multiple vials of Vinta, Rohrer and Klinger, Troublemaker, Diatramentis, Mont Blanc, and Pilot. I also placed in a different pile the vials of brands that I have only one vial of. And by the way, I have already swatched most of these inks in my DIY disc-bound ink swatch book. So please feel free to stick around on my channel and browse my videos for those ink swatching videos. And I did make my ink swatch book on camera, and I will link that video in the description box. Here are all of the vials categorized according to brand. These I have managed to gather over the past several years, I think since around 2011 or 2012, which was when sample ink vials started to be available. Of course, over that long time, I also managed to finish up a few sample vials, but I didn't really keep a record of those. I have been a fountain pen user since maybe 2006, I believe, but sample ink vials weren't available then, so everybody just bought the full-sized glass bottles. And if we did not like the ink, we were pretty much stuck with it. Social media was in its infancy as well at that time, so it was not so easy to find other people with the same hobby that can take ink bottles off of our hands in a D stash. Okay, now it's time to place the vials inside the Ziploc bags. And I used a black permanent marker to write the brand on the Ziploc bags. I started out with the brands that I have very few vials of, that they all would fit into one Ziploc bag. That was easy. And every time I have closed and sealed each Ziploc bag, I just toss them back into that same blue zippy bag that I emptied earlier. Now, for all of the brands that I have way too many vials of, I had to place them in several Ziploc bags, but I alphabetized the ink colors according to how many of them will fit inside a Ziploc bag. Because really, the purpose of my doing this is to just make it easy for me to look for a particular vial every time. So the organization of these vials doesn't have to be too sophisticated. Like I said, I'm okay with just going through this Ziploc bag by Ziploc bag instead of vial by vial. It would save me a significant amount of time, and it would also mitigate staining in case of leaks. Although, of course, after that incident with the Clearwater rain, I have certainly learned my lesson. Now I always make sure that I have closed every single vial correctly before placing them in here. So anyway, here are all of my diamine vials. And I am just alphabetizing them and figuring out how many of them will fit inside one Ziploc bag, and then labeling the Ziploc bag accordingly. I did mention in a previous video that I am stopping buying sample ink vials for now because I do want to make a deliberate effort at using up what I already have. And as you can see, I already have a lot. Actually, a lot. And I'm not even a calligrapher of any kind, so technically speaking, I do not really need these many ink vials. But I do like the experience of writing by hand using fountain pens and different inks. So that's what I'm going to do for the next few months, which is what I have been doing the whole time. And so I'm just going to continue uh, by journaling using my current fountain pens and these inks, and also handwrite the rough draft of my second novel using my current fountain pens and these inks. Now, handwriting the first draft of a novel is something that I have never done before. My first novel was written completely on the computer, but I have to start working on my second novel now, and I have already set up my life notebook to accommodate the handwriting of that second novel. So I will link the video about how I reconfigured that life notebook to accommodate the handwriting process of the second novel. Well, okay, so I really just kept doing the step of alphabetizing and labeling, and then finally placing the vials inside their pertinent Ziploc bags. I also ended up having one Ziploc bag containing vials from different brands that I have only one vial of, and I labeled that etc. or etc. I also ended up as well having one Ziploc bag containing my extra nibs for my dip pens and some nibs from Jinhao that I could not get to work yet. I will figure it out on a different day, but for now the nibs also went into a Ziploc bag and then into the same zippy bag. Okay, all of the Ziploc bags are finally inside the same blue zippy bag. This should be so much easier to go through. I can just sift through them looking for a label for a particular brand and then taking out that particular Ziploc bag. In the case of brands with multiple Ziploc bags, the letters of the alphabet pertaining to the names of the inks are also written on the Ziploc bag, so that should be so much easier than the state in which I had this zippy bag before. And the final thing that should go inside this bag are my syringes, which I keep inside this hard plastic pencil case. I showed these syringes before in a video and how to use them, and I will link that video in the description box. I also decided to place inside the same pencil case my plastic nib holder from Tachikawa. I also have a video showing how to use this, and I will link it down below. I decided to keep the nib holder here because the nibs are also in this same bag anyway. And finally, everything is now organized in here. It will make it easy for me to find a particular ink. In my conscious effort to use up all of the inks in here as much as I can for the next several months before buying new sample ink vials again. And that will be my challenge for myself for now, to use up what's inside these vials and regularly report on what vials I have emptied. I think that would be a fun challenge for me. And that is my little video for you today. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Bye.